I've been a full-time Amazon FBA seller for just over a year now. Looking back over about the year and a half that I've been launching products, I have made a lot of mistakes that have cost me a lot of time and a decent amount of money as well. I'm currently up to 9 products in my FBA catalog, so today I wanted to go over the top 10 mistakes that I believe I personally made over the past year and a half of being a private label seller. Number 1 is I think I overspent on softwares and services. In my opinion, the best route to take is to probably learn as you go along and only purchase the services and softwares that you absolutely need in order to take your next steps. There is so much information on YouTube about launching these products that you can do a lot of the research and figure it out for yourself. That being said, here are some services that I think you do need in the beginning to get you started, as well as some ones that I think you necessarily don't need, at least right off the bat. The first one is Helium 10 or Jungle Scout, or really any one of these product research tools. You really need to be able to analyze search volume, competition, and keywords. So whatever software you do choose, just make sure it does that. The second is accounting software. There are a lot of good accounting softwares for e-commerce businesses, particularly ones that are in FBA, and I would definitely recommend getting into one of those once you start to actually make some money in your business. A really good one that I would recommend that I know people that do use is Bench. Bench is a little bit pricey. I think it costs like anywhere from like $200 to $300 a month, which is a lot of money in the beginning. I personally don't even use a software like Bench yet. I hope to in the near future. But if you're cheap like me and you want to save as much money as possible, I would recommend going with something like Wave or any other free bookkeeping software. Wave is free and allows you to connect your bank accounts and your credit cards, and it's just a great all-in-one bookkeeping service that, like I said, doesn't cost any money and does a really good job. Now, for an example of some services or softwares that you probably don't need, at least to start out, we're talking any type of PPC automation software. This one is tempting because it sounds really nice to just set it and forget it and not have to worry about running any of your PPC campaigns. Full transparency, I do believe these services are worth it. But again, we're talking at the beginning. At the beginning of your business, you need to learn how to run your own PPC campaigns. You need to understand what's going on in the background, what types of campaigns you want to run, the ones that you don't want to run, what those campaigns are actually doing. Once you figure that out and you know what you're doing with your PPC campaigns, and you start to get a list of products where the list of campaigns increases exponentially, sure, at that point, look at some automation softwares that can help you scale. The next one is a product picking service. Again, if you want this to be a long-term business, this is a vital part of this business, and you need to learn how to do that. You need to go through the process of learning how to pick these products and to really figure out what makes a winning product and what doesn't. I hate the term winning product. I don't know why I just said that. It's not about a winning product. It's about a product that serves the customer's purpose better than your competition. But nonetheless, do this part yourself, at least to start. You want to get really good at knowing what a good product is and how to differentiate it and how to build upon it and make it better in your market. The point of not using these softwares to begin with is to really learn where your strengths are. If you start to learn that your strengths are picking products, maybe down the road in order to scale your business, you do want to outsource PPC campaign management or vice versa. But in my opinion, it's important to learn the process from the ground up. Ideally, you're able to run the whole business yourself and save yourself a lot of money in the process. But even I will admit it, I outsource some parts of my business now that I'm beginning to scale it because I know what aspects of the business I do well and I know what I need to outsource in order to scale. Number 2, inventory is a double-edged sword. You don't want to order too much and you don't want to order too little. I know what you're thinking, Tyler, how on earth am I supposed to know? The reality is you really don't. It's a risk, it's a guessing game, but it's an informed guessing game. That's where these tools like Helium 10 and Jungle Scout come in, where you can analyze your competition, see how much they're selling per month, gauge that against how much you believe you could sell per month with the improvements that you make on the product, and then try to find that sweet spot of the amount of inventory that you think you can afford against what you know that you could sell through, or at least what you believe you could sell through. Because the issue of not ordering enough is that you would sell out too fast. And you would think that's a great thing, and it is because you're making money, but if you're really not on top of your inventory management, you could run the risk of selling out and being out of stock for a significant amount of time, which hurts your bottom line and also hurts the ranking of your product. I know this problem all too well. My bestseller has sold out twice, and that's caused a major issue in my business because if I'm able to keep my bestseller in stock, then obviously I'm making money on it full time. But when I do run out of it, it's potentially 2-ish months before I get it back in stock. And that hurts my ranking as well as my bottom line. The other end of this spectrum is having too much inventory for too long does cause some issues for your seller account. Not only are you not making money on not moving these products, but having inventory sitting in an Amazon warehouse for too long does actually hurt your IPI score. You don't want anything affecting your seller IPI score because that tells Amazon that you're not selling through these products that you're ordering. Your inventory is aging, and because of that, in the future, Amazon is going to restrict the amount of inventory space that they're going to hold for you, which now in the new system is a certain amount of cubic feet, not inventory item numbers. And they're going to restrict that space and not allow you to send in any more inventory until that's sold through. Number 3 is product variations. If you want to stress yourself out right off the bat, make sure that your product has variations. Okay, that may not necessarily be 100% true, but my advice is for your first product or two, try to avoid variations if possible. They just cause a headache if you don't know what you're doing with them. The main issues with variations is inventory management. You need to make sure that you order enough of the ones that sell through and not so many of the ones that don't. The problem is, particularly in the beginning, you don't know which ones are going to be which. Now, I know that there will be some products that require variations, so just know that you will need to understand your inventory management down to the T. But again, if you can save yourself the stress and headache of having variations in the beginning, I would recommend that. Number 4, and this is one of the biggest issues that FBA sellers struggle with, and I myself even struggle with, and that is not doing enough product research on the product that you're trying to sell. You may remember my last video when I talked about the foot bands that I sold. The issue was that I knew the products were good. I knew they could compete in the market. I knew the price was competitive and I knew the quality was good, but I didn't do enough research to figure out how they were going to sell in that market and how I was going to market the differentiation enough, or at least what I perceived to be the differentiation. This is where I would recommend checking off of what I called the 2 levels of product verification. Level 1 being, of course, that it has high demand, low competition, or at least in a relatively good balance as much as you can between those two things, and that you can source it with good quality and a good differentiation of the product. And then level 2 of product research is making sure that you have an actually good marketing plan for it and a plan of attack about what you're going to do to sell through this product. Number 5 is a very personal point to myself, but it's something I want everybody to be aware of, and it's not to launch too many products at once. Actually, my advice for this is to probably not launch more than one product at a time until you really know what you're doing. Even if you have the time and the capital to do it, like I feel like I did at the time, it was a huge mistake because although I did get all 4 of the products I was trying to launch at once launched, I struggled with so many things. I struggled with keeping track of manufacturers, quality control of each product, the inventory levels, making sure each product launch went according to plan, which is hard enough in and of itself to do one time, making sure the listing optimizations were up to par, and keeping track of the PPC campaigns, which just seem to stack on top of each other. If you can keep it down to one product at a time, you're really able to hyper focus on each one of the steps necessary to create a successful product launch. And you're able to just treat each one like your baby at the time and to just be able to focus on what you need to do in order to make that product successful first before you go on to another one. Number 6, and that kind of piggybacks off of that last point, is that I feel like I overspent significantly on PPC in the beginning, particularly with those 4 product launches at once. I launched all the campaigns that I typically do for my product, did it all at once, but managing that was very difficult. You don't want to just spend blindly on PPC is what I'm trying to say. It's easy to launch an automatic campaign. You can do it in a matter of like a couple clicks, and those are very important campaigns to have, but you need to understand optimization of PPC and what you do with the information from an automatic campaign, as well as product targeting and keyword campaigns as well. And I may go over PPC strategies that have worked for me in a later video, but just for this video, understand that really squeeze every dollar that you put into PPC. Really understand the campaigns you're running and utilize the information that they're giving you to make the most out of every dollar. Number 7 is making sure the quality control of your product meets the standards that your customers want. Your biggest fear as an FBA seller is negative reviews. Negative reviews can destroy your product. And maybe it's my hot take or personal opinion, but I'm glad that the review process on Amazon is as strict as it is because it really does create the authentic market that they're trying to make. So that puts it on you as the seller to make sure that your product is up to par, and just be honest with yourself. Like, is this a product, if you got it in the mail, you paid your hard-earned money for it, would you be happy with it? Or would you be like, they just tried to squeeze by and get a product to make a quick buck off of me? You want to be the seller with the satisfied customers, because if your product is good quality, the reviews will stack on top of each other so fast you won't even be able to keep track of it. But if your product has issues, particularly ones that could have been taken care of in a quality control step, you'll save yourself a lot of headache with bad reviews. And just a hot tip, make sure that you work with your manufacturer closely to make sure that there's nothing going on in the manufacturing or shipping process that could cause damage to the products. Because although Amazon understands the difference between something getting broke in shipping, and they won't blame that on you, if the product is not high quality, there's nothing they can do about a negative review that comes in, unless you're brand registered, and we'll go into that in a later video. But just make good products, please. You will save yourself so much time. Number 8 is to attack a very competitive market. This can be a hard one to swallow sometimes, because it's easy to want to go after a market that is saturated, quote unquote saturated, or competitive, because there's money to be made in those markets. It's hard to see these sellers making like 10, 20, 30, 50 grand a month and not think, you know, I could enter this market and just make a sliver of what they're making and be okay. And I'm not saying don't go after competitive markets, especially if you can differentiate your product and make it better. But you better make sure that you're able to do that in a competitive market, because if you're not, you're going to get trampled. It's very difficult to get page one. People in those markets are analyzing every cent that goes into their PPC to make sure they show up in the sponsored ads, and their listings are optimized to perfection to make sure that they stay ranked on the first page organically. So particularly in the beginning, try to avoid those highly competitive markets. Number 9, the mistake that I feel like I was making in the beginning, which I've since corrected, I started doing this about 4 or 5 months ago, was using a sourcing agent. The issue being that I wasn't using a sourcing agent in the beginning, because I personally feel like it has saved me so much time and money that it has been well worth the commission that I pay him. If you're unfamiliar with a sourcing agent, basically what they do is they work as a middleman between you and their partnered manufacturers. So let's say I have an idea for a product. I know what I want it to be. I know the differentiations that I want to make to it. I know all the design things, the logo, everything about it. Basically, you take all that information to your sourcing agent, and they're able to source manufacturers for you to use to get this product created. And they will manage all the communication between them and the supplier and relay that information to you, as well as manage any samples that come through, all the quality control. It's just nice to have a middleman right there to be working closely with the manufacturer to get things done in a quicker time frame. Plus, the language barrier is always a little bit easier, and it's kind of like having a teammate on your side with the manufacturer. Now, keep in mind, you do have to pay them a commission based off your initial order of inventory, but in my personal experience, that has been well worth the overall cost of time and effort that I've put into these products. Number 10, I have had this since the beginning, but I do feel like it could be an issue for those that don't have it, but I would highly recommend getting a coach. Now, I personally am not a coach. I don't have a mentorship program. I don't have an online course for you to take. I just have this YouTube channel, and I hope to approach this YouTube channel more as just an informative look on what it takes to be on this entrepreneurial journey in an e-commerce business, so we can kind of share that journey together as, you know, Amazon sellers in our own right. But that being said, I have found it very beneficial to have a coach because of the hurdles it's allowed me to miss in my business, as well as just the advice that I've been able to get essentially whenever I need to help grow my business. So if you're interested in the coach that I use, I can put his link in the description, but feel free to go out and find the coach that you vibe with the best and see if their program works for you. Anyways, I hope this video has helped you in any way possible in understanding the mistakes that I've made in my first year on Amazon. I hope that you're able to avoid them for yourself. If you got any value from this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the algorithm. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.